Exploring the unknown. From conspiracies to mysteries, you are entering the conspiracy sector.
Well, welcome everyone to this very special, scary program. I am your host, Aubrey Batchelor, and sailing this spooky ship of knowledge with me is Chris Jacobs, and you are entering the conspiracy sector. Hi, everybody. I hope you've been well since the last episode, and welcome to spooky season. This is always here, so I'm not reverberating through the mask. This is always Chris and I's favorite time of the year, just because the veil is at its thinnest. And what does that mean exactly, Chris? Enlighten them.
Oh yeah, when the veil is at its thinnest is when you start seeing things not only from other dimensions, other frequencies, and other realities, including the multiverse, start to kind of bleed into reality. Just like if something's happening in another universe, you're starting to actually see some of the bleed through. Like if also ghosts, phantoms, and even demonic entities, aliens. Doesn't matter. You're starting to see the different frequencies starting to interact more around this time, approaching the Samhain or Samhain time frame. The All Hallows Eve time frame, it starts to kick up. The solstice, the winter solstice has it too, but not as strong as Halloween. So this is actually a stronger time of year than even the winter solstice.
Interesting. That leads me right into it. It's interesting to say that because Samhain's, and we talked a lot about that in the last episode, and I'm going to explore it just a little bit here out of this snippet. And this also comes, I know I told everybody I was going to refer to this book again in future episodes. This is out of the Signs and Symbols source book, which from last episode is taking us to here right now. So the last one was a pre-Halloween episode. This one is our Halloween shebanger. So it's time to get spooked out, everybody. Halloween is the abbreviated term for All Hallows Eve, the day before All Saints' Day. This was the church's attempt to associate their own saints with the time of the pagan spirits. Today is personified by the image of the witch, abroad the night on her broomstick with her black cat perched alongside. Witches can also make boats from undamaged eggshell halves, apparently, and so are sometimes seen abroad on the seas using this unusual method of transport. It's amazing all the stories and myths and legends that are associated with all the creatures of Halloween. Every country around the world celebrates its dead in some way. Halloween is one of these celebrations. Effectively, it's a Christian hijacking of the older Samhain festival, one of the festivals that form the eight-spoked wheel of the year in the pre-Christian Celtic world, the cross-quarter day that marked the Feast of the Dead. And that's interesting, too. I had no idea about that. Have you ever heard about the wheel of the year?
No, but I've heard of the cross quarters where I found out the church misaligned the calendar essentially, so people didn't know when the times of power truly were. The church wanted to take that pagan power away from people, so they didn't know when to celebrate what. So they misaligned the calendar.
And that leads me into my next question. With that being said, are we actually living in the right date, right year, right now? Then
it's about six. From what I understand, it's about 6 weeks off from what people think. But Halloween is really one of the only ones that has it relatively correct, but everything else is kind of off. That's why sometimes the power wanes a little bit with some of the other points, but it's usually about 6 weeks in either direction that it's off, from what I understand.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
A Night of the Living Dead is celebrated in all parts of the world at about the same time, a symbol of the end of the harvest, the closing down of the year, and a time of death when leaves begin to die. It's right around us, like I said. And then winter sets in and things really begin to die. It's a reset in nature. And that's kind of the amazing thing, though, Chris. That's why the veil's at its thinnest right now.
The changing of the seasons, where it's going from full of life and the leaves on the trees to slight decay and change over to rebirth is what it's doing. Yeah.
And like it says here, this is the time of the year when the veil between the worlds of the living and the dead is at its thinnest. The ancestors are honored and their spirits are believed to be able to communicate with the living more easily now than at any other time. Divination in the form of necromancy, seances, etc., is likely to be more effective now than at any other time, too. There are certain rituals that guarantee entry into the other world. One of these is to find a tumulus or similar place that has fairy associations and run 9 times around it. So here we are in a numerology again, and it triggers this paranormal event to possibly occur. The
Mhm.
home is traditionally decorated with things that are intended to scare away the demons that abound at this time. However, these items often look pretty demonic themselves because it's the time of the pumpkin harvest. The large orange vegetables are hollowed out and have faces cut into them that are lit with candles, jack-o'-lanterns. There's another symbol of Halloween,
Mhm.
cats, bats, all these spooky, scary creatures, which we'll get into a little bit later. Sometimes Halloween is called Nutcrack Night. The nut harvest is at its peak, so it is natural that nuts themselves, symbolic of promise and fertility, should be used in a ritual to determine a future lover. Nuts are named after the. Sorry, I'm having a glimpse here.
When you said Nutcrack Night, that set Isaac off right there.
Oh,
But
yeah. Chestnuts roasted in an open fire. Got bad gloom. Let me open this window up just a little bit. There we go. Nuts are named after the eligible people and placed on the fire. The first one to crack in the heat of the flames signifies the lucky future partner. Apple bobbing, too, is a popular pastime at this time of year. Instead of bobbing for apples, you could just waterboard the person while they're bobbing for apples. Grab it! Get that big apple! But yeah, so there's another kind of fun little festive thing you can do. Don't torture anybody, but just bob for the apple and get it.
Festive torture. I heard Isaac go.
Oh,
Nothing says the holidays like waterboarding.
there's nothing wrong with a little bit of festive torture. I mean, come on, bring the family over for a food fight. Why don't you? But yeah, all these fun things to do, all these spooky things to do in Halloween. And like I said, when the veil's at its thinnest, like the book says, like we said, now's the time to try to communicate with the other world. This is always our favorite time of the year for go on ghost hunts whenever we were together, just because you can just feel it in your soul. You can see the proof right in front of you, the evidence right in front of you. You have more EVPs, it seems. You'll have just more creepy feelings. You'll have more. We had cold spots, just weird stuff that happens this time of the year.
Oh yeah, we've seen several things happen this time of year. We've been clearing our house out, and I have never seen the like of some of these energies before. That even on other Halloweens, it has so amplified right now. Us having to clear things, us having to find like either haunted objects, haunted things, things that don't serve us. It is speeding up. We've even seen road phantoms. I'll get into that later when you get into that part. But we've seen a plethora of ghostly things, and also there's a strange calm in the eye of the storm right now too. It's
Mm-hmm.
this we've created this bubble where you feel it's almost like you're in a temple, and that's how we like it. But when you go outside of it, you get hit with the edge of the hurricane, and it's just this enormous like explosion of energies, and you can feel how the seasons are changing over. You can feel like as the leaves are falling off, you can feel the decay going into like the winter, starting this winter slumber essentially, and that changeover to where it'll eventually be a rebirth. You can feel that along with the veil thinning, and it is a very intensive time of year for those that are sensitive to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know that the majority of our ghost hunts and everything, not exactly in the month of Halloween or on Halloween, but I'd say 80% of the ghost hunts we've been on have been from September to January. I'd say in that time frame, those very few months, most of our ghost hunts have occurred in that short time frame. So, when the veil's the thinnest, it's around the time closest to when the veil is at its thinnest.
Mhm.
Wintertime, fall time, All Hallows Eve, Christmas, right around that time, we're still the closest to the veil instead of getting
Oh,
further away from it.
and other
And
universes, you get other stuff from the multiverse, even anomalies like portals, time fractures, vortexes. They're more intense too.
mm-hmm,
Mm.
mm-hmm. Kind of creepy, weird ass world that we live in, isn't
Hmm.
it?
Oh yeah, it's been very intense for us personally. This getting into this time of year. Last year, ended up getting sick, and it ended up getting amplified. So it can't. So this is a misnomer that it would just amplify positive things. It's like when you go to Sedona, people think, "Oh, it's a cleansing energy." No, it's an amplified energy. You walk in there with something, it amplifies it 100-fold because of the vortexes. It's the same with Halloween. If you're in a certain state and you're unbalanced, it's going to cause some more unbalance. If you're in a state of balance and you attain that, it creates more of it and more peace. So it's basically a misnomer that it's like the cure-all. It's more like the catch-all. So you have to be in a state of balance and be in a state of complete, not necessarily just peace, but just
homeostasis.
Like a homeostasis. Yeah, exactly. But also take joy in what you're doing, like Halloween, like with going out, doing your thing, either kids doing trick or treating or doing ghost hunts, doing things that you love to do. It's that will then amplify more.
Doing some seances. Never have done one. I wouldn't mind attending one time. I never have done one.
Yeah, I've never done a seance. I've never done table tipping or anything of that nature. We tend to see that stuff on a regular basis, but I think it would be more interesting with other people around to see what actually occurs.
I would too. Those classic stories of table lifting, and where like it levitates up off the ground. Sarah Winchester,
in
the Mystery House. Let's get into just real quick a few symbols and things that are associated with Halloween. Kind of fun little stuff.
All right.
And then I think we'll get into some creepy road phantoms to get in the spook session or get in the spooky season
spook session
mood.
Yeah,
we are in a spook session, that's for sure. All right, can you see this, Chris?
Yep, I can see it.
Well, that's the wrong one. Let's go to this one. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So these are all the symbols that are associated with Halloween, and it's kind of fun. We think of witches, we think of bats. This is just a little bit of history that are associated with all such said symbols. And this is an article from kinghalloween.com. That's just kind of a cool cool title. But with Halloween coming, store shelves will soon be covered in festive and colorful holiday decorations. Year after year, we are surrounded by the same Halloween symbols and may even use our favorites for decorating. Why not learn a little bit more about your favorite symbols? Halloween practices and traditions can change from place to place and generation to generation, but often the symbols stay the same. Over time, cultures may forget what exactly each symbol represents, and new meanings can slowly take shape. Below is a list of modern-day Halloween symbols that have been around for generations and some information about what they have come to symbolize in America. Halloween symbols. Many Halloween symbols will fall into one of three major categories. They can be symbols of the season and the harvest. Examples of this kind of Halloween symbol are corn husks, candy corn, and jack-o'-lanterns. Number two, many Halloween symbols represent death and mortality. Some examples of these are skeletons, skulls, ghosts, and graveyards. Number three, the third set of Halloween symbols represents misfortune or evil. Examples include witches, bats, black cats, and clowns.
Clowns.
Yeah, clowns, scary clowns, I tell you. Remember that?
They need puppets and mimes in there too. Yeah.
What was it like in 2018, 2019 when that scary clown phenomenon bullcrap was going on?
Oh, yeah.
It was what the hell? It was like a 1 month thing, 2 month thing, and then if anybody remembers that clown epidemic thing, comment below if you heard a personal story about that. Anybody that was involved with like a clown incident, or if you've ever had a clown incident since it's Halloween. I know
people spoke out against that too because I didn't want kids being scared. I was like, well, that's the point. That's why they created that,
Yeah, that's interesting. So number one is the jack-o'-lantern, and the pumpkin symbol began long ago in Ireland when the Celts would carve turnips on All Hallows Eve. They would place an ember inside the turnip to keep evil spirits at bay. There were no pumpkins in Ireland, so the pumpkin symbol didn't become popular until the Irish migrated to America during the potato famine. So the face of the jack-o'-lantern, now you know why the pumpkin is hollowed out and filled with fire, but why do we carve a face on it? The reason for the face centers around the old Irish story of Stingy Jack. According to a tale, Stingy Jack lived as a drunk Irishman who played tricks on people during his life. Jack managed to make both God and the devil angry, so when he died, neither heaven nor hell would let him in. He was faced to roam the earth with only a turnip jack-o'-lantern to light his way. Townspeople began placing jack-o'-lanterns around their homes to keep Stingy Jack from coming to the door. So that's kind of interesting.
That's actually very interesting, because what's very synchronistic is that we have this porcelain jack-o'-lantern my family's had for quite some time, and Joanna and I inherited it. So we put it outside with a couple of skulls that I made, like resin ones I made. I had a glow in a dark one and another one I put out there. And something told me to face it in a particular direction, like almost like a guard, or like almost like a early warning system sort of deal. And that's actually true. You can set up things like that, edifices like that, to be almost like an early warning system. We encountered this in Virginia one time at a shop. I'm not going to say which shop because this person's very picky about being talked about, but somebody had a skull outside in the main room as more of a magical kind of security camera in its own right. And you can do that with crystal balls, crystals, but skulls and jack-o'-lanterns and things like that are very efficient, even though skulls can be corrupted. Something told me to turn the jack-o'-lantern in a particular way, and that was where some weird energy was coming in. So that's actually very synchronistic. You brought up the whole Jack story there, because I'm thinking it holds its origins with things that were crossing through the veil that people wanted to kind of keep track of, and it kind of corrupted a little bit into the jack-o'-lantern story after a while. But that sounds like that sounds like that would be true.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let me just go back here. Boom, boom, boom. And to get back into it, another one is a witch symbol. Witch symbols are still some of the most traditional Halloween images around. The iconic silhouette of a witch riding through a full moon is one of the more popular witch images used on Halloween. Why is a witch associated with Halloween? In Celtic culture, witches were supernatural female healers. This is why witches derive from Wicca, which means wise one. And like I was reading an article one time about witches of the Appalachians. There'd be 3 different type of witches. There'd be a dark witch, then there'd be a witch doctor, one that would cure, witch spells, and then there'd be like an herb witch, one that would heal you with herbs. But
that's very, very interesting. Yeah. What I also found out something interesting about witches in particular. There's 2 connotations there. The one you just said that also stemmed from Viking lore, where it would be almost like a midwife that used potions and spells to help a birthing mother, as well as be the healer for like the warriors and such in Scandinavian legend. But also where we get the pointy hat, green warded, Wicked Witch of the West thing, that goes back to more alien Orion, because Orions were the ones with the elongated skulls, and they had to wear hats that were pointy. Hence, also, you have Merlin that had his classic pointed hat. You have the good side, which you had elves, you had elementals, you had good beings, that may had even had a larger head or something like that they had to put over the hat over it. Then you had the Fomorian Orion decrepified looking ones that were like, like that. That's where that comes from, where they were essentially, baby stealers. They were essentially ill spell casters. But then you had the church that tried to make all of them look that way. It was essentially the Orions that were kind of projecting about themselves, since they had a hand in creating the church and going after a lot like alchemists, healers, anybody that could possibly contest them. And it stems back to what was known as the Fomorian Wars, or the War of the Tuatha De Danann and the Fomorian groups. And humans got caught on both sides of the spectrum, essentially elves versus essentially the Fomorian wizards that look kind of like white elves, and green ones too. And that's where you get the green or dark elf, like what Odin fought in the mythology, with the teal colored skin, and with the pointy chin and everything. So that's where you're getting some of that essentially from. But the more common known one is one you just said, essentially, was an alchemist, healer, a person that would help a village or society that the church shunned and made it look like it was the
kind
work
of an herb witch. An herb witch.
Essentially, the church would make them look like they were in league with Satan at that point. And then you get into the Salem witch trials, that they just went absolutely stupid.
And now it's, you're not taking pharmaceutical pills. Yeah.
Exactly. Another way of demonizing alchemy and sorcery and everything. It's just a scientific way of doing it this time. but essentially saying, "Oh no, that won't work. Home remedies won't work." Essentially, they're dumping on alchemy and witchcraft and Wicca again, just in a different way. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But it is crazy to think that like every poisonous plant, somebody's probably like taken it and died.
Oh yeah, because they
history.
want to test the alchemy on themselves, and then somebody finds them dead in their kitchen somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it
Well,
is nuts.
this tastes good. Bah!
Yeah, any alchemist will test it on themselves. It's like in the game Skyrim and Oblivion when you're trying to create potions, you have to test it on yourself to make it work, and if you take the wrong thing, you're dead. So it's like, it's the same thing in the game world where they're showing people how to mix stuff together. I've even made like land clearing potions, like with Nightshade and Wolfsbane. Those are two of the deadliest poisons on the planet next to Mandrake. So it's like, I've worked with it before. I've gained kind of immunity to both of those because I've manhandled it too much. But it's like, if you do it too much, you get a splitting headache. But it's like, but Nightshade is one of the best ones for land clearings and everything. It's one of the most deadly out there. The Devil's Cherries is what they call that one. So it's, that's for a reason. If you eat like those, if you eat about a human being eats 20 of those are dead. So, so one could actually cure something, 20 will kill you. So,
man.
So somebody actually had to try that out to get that basically that margin put in place, that boundary put in place.
I'm not gonna try it. I can tell you.
No, somebody somewhere had to do it so somebody else didn't have to. But but that's the point of the whole thing. That's what would be considered witchcraft, is stuff like that. Is essentially alchemy and any of those natural sciences are actually considered essentially blasphemy by the church.
Well, to get back into this real quick, I'm just want to touch on a couple more. And this is the bat, and for the symbol of the bat. And I want to jump back to the signs and symbol book to talk about the bat. And for fans of horror movies, the bat has become an animal to be feared. It not only becomes entangled in long hair, but the vampire bat is a satanic agent that sucks the soul from the body along with its lifeblood. However, there is more to the bat than purely negative symbolism. In China, the ideogram for good luck, fu, stands the same for the word bat. And so the animal is a lucky charm. To see 5 bats at once represents the 5 happinesses: health, wealth, longevity, a virtuous life, and a good death. Like the Taoist immortals, bats live in caves, and so they too are symbolic of longevity and immortality. Some bat caves in the east have remained unchanged for thousands of years. The bats that live there are revered as sacred animals. The nocturnal nature of the bat has given it some negative associations. It is the symbolic of the night devouring the day. The bat is said to swallow the light because it wakes at dusk, the time between day and night. Native Indian tribes in Brazil say that a bat swallowing the sun will herald the end of the world. And the Mayans believed that the bat was a harbinger of death. Christian belief too regards that the bat with suspicion is seen as an incarnation of Satan. However, the nocturnal nature of the bat makes it like the owl, another creepy Halloween creature that will be in the article that will jump back to this. A creature that has access to hidden knowledge and secret information, able to detect things in the hours of darkness that are not accessible to diurnal creatures. Before echolocation was recognized and understood, the bat's ability to find its way about was a source of great intrigue, adding to the mystique of the animal. Because female bats are the only flying creatures that suckle their young, it is considered a good mother. It's kind of a creepy little creature, the bat is, but interweaving with Halloween lore, you can kind of see a creature of the night, all the mystic nature, the vampire, lore associated with bats.
And also elemental as well, because I came to find out, there are creatures that can morph back and forth. Like there is a vampire contagion out there that can cause transmutative abilities, the same as with werewolf. But you have also some dark elemental beings that are these tall bat-like creatures that some governmental people have enlisted as well. Also has been mistaken for Mothman as well. It's a bat creature that's out there. It was There is a Mothman as well, but these bat creatures are more numerous than the insectoid Mothman types. The Mothman is considered like a harbinger of doom, but then you have these bat creatures that have been mistaken for it. Chicago, in particular, several years back, there was one that's people spotted standing on the edge of Sears Tower. They lovingly nicknamed it Batman, but at people are thinking this, but they don't actually say it. It's Batman. But in this, some of them can actually morph and shapeshift and turn into a small bat, like you would expect a vampire to. So it's an elemental being that has that bit of evolution it picked up to where it can change. This is where some of that shape-shifting of vampires, into wolves and also into bats came in, werewolves shifting. It's essentially a transmutative ability that was basically created. It's an alien thing, essentially, but or Orion, and also another group called Antiquan, Dogman, or Anubis regal, Dogman for werewolves. But with this, one time when we were sitting in our living room, I saw this like specter kind of going through the house. I was looking up and I looked at it more closely, and it looked like a bat. I was told it was an elemental, that it was a type of elemental that this one couldn't shift. It was just a bat, but it had an elemental, like an elemental spirit of sorts. And I've seen these before, like either spirit animals, like cats, dogs, all of them, or even owls. I've seen them as well. Natives always say when you see an owl, somebody is going to die. But also Hispanic lore, they see it as a creature known as the owl witch. And an owl witch is essentially a bad guy. The Native Americans consider that to be one of their top bad guys next to their serpent king. So owl witch is essentially a harpy from Greek mythology. And they're another engineered species. I found out that it's a woman, like a naked woman with feathers around the hair. They don't have a beak per se, but they have feathers that cover some of them, and they tend to prey on children. This is why they think owls are an incarnated owl witch, or one that's shape shifted, which is ridiculous because some owls, the regular owls, they tend to bring in good energies. So the Hispanics are very superstitious about that. Natives, the same way with the owl witch. They see it as an undefeatable bad guy, which I beg to differ. But with bats, it's kind of perceived kind of the same way associated with vampires. But people forget the elemental side of this, the good elemental side to this, that are actually helpful beings, as well as you have real bats, regular bats that get rid of harmful bugs and insects as well. So on the scientific side of the spectrum. So it's basically a good omen when you see a bat, aside from the negative aspects like vampires and some of these negative bigger elemental forms that tend to harm people. Again, where some of the missing people go, by the way, are associated with vampiric entities as well. We didn't mention that on our 411 episode. But before I get too far off to kind of cap that off, some of these symbols are actually good. Now, owls, again, there's a negative aspect where it's associated with the Anunnaki Lord Molag. And he was essentially one of or Orion Lord Molag, and that's his symbol. Wherever he happens to hold dominance in an area, you see a plethora of owl symbols. That's the negative side of it. Just like his father, Baal, has the bull or the cow. And so when you start seeing that everywhere, that's waned in recent years, and it's starting to shift more over towards the positive connotation of it. But that's how it's been in the past. Wherever those two lords popped up in history, it was either the owl or the bull. So if people are curious about why you see in Hollywood, you're seeing the bull imagery and everything, because Baal, also known as Lucifer, was also associated with Luciferian or Satanic Hollywood. So you have that pop up as well. So that's what the negative side of it, but it's now becoming more positive, where the superstition portions of it are melted away around bats and owls, and they are actually starting to be seen as more elemental messengers and elemental good forms now.
Interesting. The change ups.
Yeah, the change going from a more negative positive connotation.
Yeah. So I'm just going to briefly summarize the rest of these. Of course, we have ghosts, and I'm just going to sum up the Halloween meaning. It's believed that the spirits of the dead can walk among the living on Halloween night. making the ghost symbol fitting for this spooky holiday. It's also thought that ghosts will visit their past loved ones in old homes on Halloween night. We have a black cat, of course, which I have had a weird uh Halloween story with a black cat. Halloween night, we're having a Halloween party, have this fire. You can't make this crap up. It's synchronicity at its finest experience. Like we were just joking around about it being eerie because there was no wind, no nothing, just the fire that we had. It was calm. I said, all we need is a black cat. And no more than 5 minutes after that, this random black cat comes walking up to us. So I have had a black cat experience on Halloween. I thought that was interesting. But
You were either picking up on whether it was going to walk in, or an elemental was basically putting that in your
playing something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that does happen. So yeah,
we got the black cat. So in history, later in history, many believed that witches could turn into cats, and black cats became the symbol for witches' familiar. Once again, during the witch trials, cats were killed along with the accused witches for being evil. Interestingly enough, black cat symbolism is very different in many other countries where they are seen as good luck. So then, of course, we have skeletons, and skeletons have become such popular Halloween symbols that you can now get fun skeleton dogs, birds, cats, and other animals as decorations. Another reason skeletons are great Halloween symbols is because the visual of the skeleton costumes with white bones on a black background looks good on TV and in movies. Skull symbol, of course. Mexican skulls. Trick or treating, of course. Eventually, trick or treating led to hungry and poor dressing up as spirits and going door to door for offerings. So it must have been kind of a hand me out service back in the day, according to this.
Mm-hmm.
There's scarecrows. That's kind of cool. Pumpkin head scarecrow. Owl symbolism. We talked a little bit about owls with the bats. Blood symbolism, of course. Like many Halloween symbols, blood represents life and mortality. It's a reminder that we are human and can experience pain and be killed. Showing the loss of blood or blood draining from a body is a direct reference to mortality and the fear of dying, which sucks, but yeah. Along with origin black, red is often used in popular decorations to symbolize the color of blood when decorating for Halloween. Of course, we got spider symbolism in Halloween. Halloween clowns, like we talked about. Remember, if you've ever had a clown experience or if you have a clown phobia, comment down below. We want to hear. Or any other creepy stories that you might have.
Mimes included in this, folks.
Yeah, mimes. Yes. They can't forget the mimes.
And I just heard Isaac go, a mime is a terrible thing to waste.
They never shut up.
Oh, and he goes, he just said, oh, they always talk with their hands. They never shut up. They talk with their hands. Yeah.
We have corn husks for harvest, candy corn here. Many of the Halloween symbols listed above are directly connected to ancient Halloween customs. Be sure to check out other Halloween traditions at this website, Keen Halloween. I'm sure it's a cool site to explore, but this is the one article I come across I wanted to share. So if you kind of were entertained and learned a little bit about some symbols of Halloween there.
Mm-hmm.
And real quick, just to finish up while we're on the topic, I just want to share something fun, then we can get into robe phantoms. I want to go back to here and go over to here. And we're going to just talk about some monsters of Halloween and some movies associated with them. So we got werewolves. We got An American Werewolf in London, which is a good movie. Chris, you like that one?
Oh yeah, I saw that as a kid. I saw American Werewolf in London. Its sequel kind of sucks, but the original is an excellent werewolf movie that actually depicts that curse kind of spreading from one person to the next in that respect. So yeah.
Real quick, if you have never seen the movie, just say pass. But out of a scale out of 10, let's rate each one, starting left to right. American Werewolf in London.
I would say that's about. It's about a 9 there. Yeah.
I would have to go with the same. When it comes to the movie, it is. I'd say 8.8 out of 10. How about Teen Wolf?
I would say that's more about a 6 right there.
6. I'd have to go with about a 8.4. How
Yeah, it was a
about
good movie. I'd just say about a 6, maybe 7. Yeah.
Woof? Isn't that with Anthony Hopkins, if I remember?
No, it's Jack Nicholson and Michelle Pfeiffer. That's an excellent one. I would say that's about roughly 9.5 right
I'm
there.
gonna have to watch that one. I've never seen it. So
Yeah,
pass.
it's excellent. Very
How about
excellent.
the
Yeah.
Wolfman? I know Anthony Hopkins is in this one. Benicio del Toro.
That's an excellent one if people want to see a good action flick mixed with the werewolf concept. I would say that's roughly about a 9.5 as well. So,
I'd have to agree. I really enjoyed it. I'd say a lot of people didn't, but I'd have to say all mine are very similar. I'd say 8.2. How
okay.
about Twilight? We'll just go with the whole series.
Even though it's accurate to where locations of vampires are and stuff like that,
Yeah.
that's that Stephanie Meyer, teen thing. I would have to say maybe a 3 on that one.
Yeah, I was thinking like a 2.1 or something like that. So, yeah.
I was being too generous. How about 2? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Everybody watch all these others. Don't really pay attention to Twilight here. All right, now we're moving on to Dracula and vampires. So we got
Dracula Untold's actually a good one. Yeah.
How about this Bram Stoker's Dracula here?
Yeah, that's right with Bram Stoker's book right there. I'd have to say that's about an 8.
I would agree. I was thinking like a 7.7, something like that.
Mhm.
How about Wes Craven's Dracula?
That's up there. That's not as good as Bram Stoker's. I'd say about a 6 or 7.
We're on the same path. I was thinking about like a 6.3, something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How about Blade Trinity?
That was all right. That was about a 7, 7.5.
I agree. Yeah, 7.4. I agree. How about Van Helsing?
I actually enjoyed that one. That's about an 8.5 right there. So
We're on the same page here. I was thinking like an 8.1, 8.0, something like that. How about I've never seen Dracula Untold.
That is actually an excellent version. I wish they had made a sequel to it. I would say that's about an 8.5, 9, somewhere in there.
I'll have to watch that one too.
Yeah.
All right, we got Mummies. How about I haven't seen the first one.
The original is all right. Yeah, the original is all right. It's slightly boring, but it being an old, I'd say it's about maybe a 5, maybe 5.5, somewhere in there.
Of course, we have the Mummy trilogy.
Those are good. The third one is okay, but the first one I would say is maybe an 8. The second one is maybe a 6.5, somewhere in there, and the third one is somewhere around maybe a 5.5 somewhere.
Yeah, I think so too. We're kind of on the same page. I'd say the first one like 9.2. I'd say the second one 8.6. I'd say the third one 8.1. I think they kind of digress. I don't know this final one, the Mummy. Is that
the one with Tom Cruise? That one wasn't too bad. I would say though it's more about a 7.5, somewhere in there.
Yeah. I haven't seen one on each one. But we go with Frankenstein here. Oh, look, this is cool. They got strengths and weaknesses over here.
Yeah, Frankenstein, the original is good, and then they went off on a tangent and started making all these weird spin-offs and everything.
They got all these little strengths. That's kind of cool.
Strengths and weaknesses, kind of like trading cards. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of neat. Of course, I've never seen hardly any of these.
Oh yeah, the first Frankenstein, the classic one, is probably the best of the lot. Somewhere around maybe an 8. A Bride of Frankenstein, the classic line, "We belong dead" at the end of that movie. That one was about maybe a 7. Son of Frankenstein, meh. I would give that more of like a 4.5. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, I have not seen that one. Believe it or not,
Robert De Niro?
Yeah, I've not seen that one, but I've not heard good things about it though. So it's like the I, Frankenstein. I saw that one, Joanna, and I saw that one last year. It's okay. It's about maybe I would give it maybe a 6.5. Kind of.
Hey, look, Harvey Two-Face.
Yeah, that's same actor. Yeah, same actor. It's about a 6.5, 6.8, somewhere in there. Yeah.
We'll do one more creature. Everybody's favorite, zombies.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. They're giving the specs on it. Yeah. Um, uh,
Yeah,
Night of the Living Dead. That I only saw that once. It's
pretty
maybe about a
cheesy.
cheesy. Yeah. Dawn of the Dead. It's a little bit up there. I would say maybe about the same range. 28 Days Later. That's further up the scale a little bit for
I
zombie
like
movie.
28 Days Later.
Yeah, that's probably about an 8 right there, 8.5. So
I
yeah,
think
that
so. Yeah.
is Shaun of the Dead was hilarious. That's about maybe
Yeah.
about a
The,
9 up there. That was good. Yeah.
Mariah and I went and seen that Love Means Never Having to Say You're Undead in the Warm Bodies movie. We went to see that one in theaters, I remember.
Oh, yeah. I have not seen that one, so can't give an accurate rating.
It
But
was good. It was
yeah.
good. I'd give it a 8.6. It was good.
Okay. Yeah. Shaun of the Dead's probably my favorite out of that bunch, though. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, to go out, you want to get into some road spirits?
Yeah, we can do that.
I hope you all enjoyed that. If you haven't seen any of those movies, it should give you something to dabble with this final week of Halloween season.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, yeah. If you haven't seen any of those, even if you're not really into horror movies, even though we didn't mention TV series, I would recommend The Walking Dead. That's actually a decent series. I only got to about season 5. Joanna refuses to watch it. She's not into the horror stuff, but it's like from what I saw, it was pretty decent for the zombie genre.
Yeah, I kind of dig all the, even the cheesy horror movies. I need to watch those Frankenstein ones. I've
Mhm.
never seen any of those, I don't believe. But
Yeah, I hated when they went into the Abbott and Costello stuff, like, oh, introducing Dracula, Mummy, Wolfman. I hated when they did that. That's more in the Svengoolie territory right there, but where he's made fun of those. But the original is good. The original is good.
stock up on your garlic, your silver bullets, your crosses, your wooden stakes. Everybody, prepare for Halloween! What are some other things we can protect ourselves with? Salt,
Oh,
uh,
salt. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have
essential oils, crystals,
shungite. Yeah, got
uh,
that. Silver. Uh,
silver,
yeah,
yes,
we got that. Yeah.
metals.
Uh, Yeah, and we got Apache tier that keeps away negative entities. We got crystals that are programmed to keep away things. I got my channel crystal here, and also I have other stones like say apatite that enhances psychic abilities. I have pneumite that is for wisdom, but those aren't really protection ones. But amber though, that is a good
Mm,
grounding and protective healing one right here. I keep that. I have another one that kind of glitterified right here. Amber,
mm-hmm.
frankincense, myrrh, healer, and also protector, keeping away death energies, things of that nature. So yeah, hematite also helps ground all this. Also keep hematite on either side of your door. That tends to create a grounded barrier. I came to find out very recently. No, that's another
Mm.
thing we haven't mentioned because I didn't really know completely about that. But I wear hematite to stay grounded. But if you take salt and mix it with hematite, it'll ground the salt energy to the floor. I came to find
Mm.
out it pushes it down. It creates a barrier on the floor and the door. So we have the salt pucks all over the place that I've created, like these with
Mm-hmm.
amber in them and stuff like that. I know this one's leaching, but we also one thing I will do. I have one in here. No, I do not have. Oh yeah, I have one in here. I will show the audience here. Is and I showed this, I believe, on the last one too that we did on witchcraft. This is a protective salt, black
Mm.
witch's salt. This contains sulfur, bitumen, white sea salt, and graveyard dirt. And the importance of all that is the graveyard dirt and the sulfur, along with the salt, create a scrubbing bubble effect. And I call it the scrubbing bubble effect. A company by the name of Zugans made this. A company in Cornwall, England, made this. One of the most excellent salt clears I've ever seen. So if anyone wants to get that, it's Zugans. I can always put the link underneath. But
Hmm.
I buy it off Etsy all the time. This guy has a little shop in Cornwall. So, but if you can't find that, you just use salt outside, like of all different colors and types, and it tends to
Mm-hmm.
work quite well. One thing we found out from the beach, being on the East Coast, we found that near the ocean, ghouls and demons can't approach the ocean. There are demonic, like crustacean looking beings that are around in those areas that have adapted to salt. Salt doesn't work on them. Fire works on them, but and silver works on them. But the sand I brought back with that contained those ions act the same as me putting this down. So if you're not from the beach, bring some sand back with you from like the beach side. Let it dry out. You can use it the same as using the salt barriers. It works exactly the same way. The sea energy and the sea ions work exactly the same as if you put salt down. So I know we veered a little bit, but I wanted to make sure I mentioned an update. Yeah, to that.
It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Give you a little bit of a protection incantation.
And we used it on the front of our driveway out here. I put some salt and not salt, but I put the sand and shells from several of the beaches we went to in the crack of the driveway, and it created this sea-like energy that I felt the same as on the beach. It felt like a tide going in and out. So it was that energy was saved, and it washed away some junk that was on the property that stagnated. So I thought that was interesting, like a tide grabs things and moves things in and out. It feels the same way even now. I can feel it still outside. So it's still working. And it stays longer. The sand stays longer. So don't buy it from the store. Don't buy the sand from the store. You have to actually get it to where the ocean has pushed it up out of the sea. And it actually works quite well.
Interesting. Well, do you want to start off with a shebang of road phantoms, and then I can get on some I'll come in after you start off with some little interesting tidbits.
Oh yeah, here is interesting. People think of spook lights, people think of railroad trestle phantoms and road ghosts, and some of these are associated with tragedies, like say the Eternal Watchman on the railroad tracks with his lantern that falls under the spook light. Some of these are aliens, some of these are elemental, some of these are ghosts. The alien is like a miniature spaceship that is like, people have heard me talk about orbs, where there's even a little guy sitting in the center, and it's kind of like the TARDIS from Doctor Who, where it's bigger on the inside, but it's really this small orb going around. So that's the alien side of it. The ghost phantom side of it, the one we're focusing on now, are also elemental. Sometimes they're fairies, sometimes Sasquatch is mixed into this with the orb lights and stuff like that, where they too use that spaceship type tech, or at least the tech advanced ones that people have seen. But also some can morph into that orbital form. The ghosts, though, the road ghosts, are sometimes those that have died from some tragedy on the road. Like you see those roadside crosses every now and again, and you see like where somebody's died. Well, that road sometimes can be haunted by the ghost of somebody that maybe a full truth hasn't been said, or there's an injustice formed, or that person wasn't ready to cross, and then they haunt that road. Sometimes, though, these negative soul harvesting entities and aliens will keep an event going on that they can loosh or suck the energy out of, like a vampire. People know that part that we've spoken about, but in the more traditional sense, it is essentially the ghost of somebody that's either been hit by a car, or in the case of some children one time, there was a school bus that was hit by a train. And this mixed road phantom with railroad trestle phantom. This is the one where both literally crossed paths, where a school bus full of kids got hit by a train. And on that set of railroad tracks, whenever anybody would drive their car up to it, their car would, if you put it in neutral, the car gets pushed across.
There's a very similar story outside. I used to live in Columbus, Nebraska. And there's some bridge outside of town that people would tell me that if you parked on it, very similar story, you put like baby powder or flour on the hood of your car, you could see handprints. You park on the bridge, put the car in neutral, put powder on there, and then you can see handprints try to like push the car off the bridge.
That one, I've heard that one, and there was another one where the school bus got hit. So it was two similar stories, and the baby powder thing worked on the other one too. I don't remember where the other one was, but I know the one was in Columbus, and then
so we're talking about the same one.
Well, there was one in Columbus, but there was a second one that was another school bus. The other one was in Illinois, I believe. It was a similar type thing where somebody tried the baby powder thing. It was a similar occurrence, but the Columbus one is more famous.
Hmm.
That one is more famous with the baby powder. Then somebody else tried it on another one where they put their car in neutral. It's outside of Chicago, and they tried it and it was the same result. Also, you have Resurrection Mary from Resurrection Cemetery, who was essentially a road phantom along the roadway between there and the diner where she was last seen alive. So that Mary Bergovia, I believe her
Was
name
it
is.
Archer? It's not Archer Avenue, is it?
Yeah, I believe it is right along the side of the cemetery there. Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
out of Chicago.
Yeah, right out there in Chicago. I've been to Resurrection one time, and we did a ghost box. Me and Dave Pappas of Sage also did a ghost box session back then, and got some eerie mist floating through the cemetery and stuff
Well,
like
while
that.
you just said it, let me share it right now. This is what he's talking about. This is one of the haunted roads that we'll talk about from transflow.com.
Hmm.
Archer Avenue outside of Chicago. When it comes to haunted places in Chicago, Archer Road almost always comes up. There's a stretch of road between St. James Sag Church and Resurrection Cemetery that is apparently home to wandering spirits. The Erie Road winds through overgrown trees, cemeteries, and bodies of water, with multiple ghostly sightings reported in the area over decades. One of the most notable sightings is that of Resurrection Mary. The story of Mary goes one night she was out with her boyfriend when they got into an intense argument in the car on their way home from a party. She insisted her boyfriend pull over so she could get out and walk home. He let her out, and as she began to walk along the road, an unidentified vehicle struck her in a hit and run accident. The person who struck her was never found, and Mary was later buried in Resurrection Cemetery. There are numerous accounts of men picking up a female hitchhiker with blonde hair and blue eyes, dressed in party attire. She remains very quiet, but as they pass Resurrection Cemetery, she asks to be let out and disappears into the cemetery.
Hmm.
Very crazy. Kind of.
Yeah, oh yeah. People have seen her and even tried to pick her up from that. Then the further they get away from the cemetery, she gets more and more panicky. There was a story of somebody that my father and Dave Pappas and I had spoken to, where uh, where there was this woman or that picked up this other lady on the side of the road, and she wanted to be driven somewhere, and then eventually she got panicky and then vanished inside the car, so in their back seat. And some ghosts can be hitchhikers on the road, especially where one has died, and they can actually get in your car. So you have to bless your vehicle too. I always recommend doing a saging of the vehicle, and even putting like we have our orgone pieces or shungite under the passenger and driver's seat. We're going to make shungite magnets to keep things away too that have silver embedded in them. We're going to for car protection, stuff like that. But in case you don't have that, silver coins, keep them on you, keep them under the seats, keep shungite bags under the seat. Even herbs like wolfsbane and sage and everything, you can keep them in your car, and you won't get hitchhikers. But we call them hitchhikers. We got them out on the East Coast near Washington D.C. in the battlefields all the time out there. It was pretty ugly. I called that Harvester Alley out there because we were encountering
Oh,
ghosts along that road from Virginia Beach to D.C. out there. Haunted as holy hell along that highway stretch by Jamestown out there and Williamsburg. Very, very haunted out there. And for curious people also, in this neighborhood, we live in Granville in Prescott Valley. And you wouldn't think of something new construction being haunted. You wouldn't really think of it. But as the land is being constructed, there's houses being constructed over
mm-hmm.
this direction from us. You can feel the energy being churned up. And also, what hasn't settled from that, anybody that does reconstruction gets the most haunting because they're tearing up an old house, they're reconstructing the energy. In this area, also being Halloween time, Joanna and I were coming home from dinner, and we drove along the road here right towards the house, and I saw this flash, like not a light flash, but it was a human body, like a human form flash that was transparent, and somebody in a hoodie. This was somebody more than likely that had died in the area that was now visible, that was a ghost that was wandering through. I have not encountered this ghost. I usually encounter them immediately afterwards, but it was like boom, because the veil was thinning. We were seeing this. And Joanna didn't see it. She was ironically looking down, even though she was driving, she was looking at something, and I just happened to see this. And I said, oh, there was a road phantom. ironically enough, because we were doing this show today. So,
Well, I can somewhat relate a little bit. That UFO that we seen. Remember that I was telling you at Marco 253. I know I was talked about on the show here before, but we were just traveling along. There was a little bit of psychic phenomenon going on. Mariah was like, "What is that?" And I instantly think UFO. She asked when I get excited, thinking it's UFO. It's a Little Dipper, and I'm a little bit disappointed. 5 seconds after that, like 200 yards in front of us, 100 yards up in the sky, this weird light comes out of the nighttime sky and shoots straight down to the highway right in front of us and another vehicle and vanishes. And then the car in front of us decided to say, screw this, and took off. And I'm looking for this, looking for this. Then there's that bright light out off in the distance that you see out in the middle of nowhere where you can see hundreds of stars, thousands of stars in the sky. You didn't hardly see any stars, just as bright orb off in the distance after that happened. I wish I had dash cam more than ever.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I would recommend people start recording more and more wherever you go, especially with UFO instances on the rise, paranormal activity on the rise. Have a camera with you on the phone. People always say, "Well, I wish I had my camera near." Well, you have phones now. So take one with you. It's not like the days of old where you had to have 35 millimeter, or if you have the old flip phones, you have these now. So
the Patterson Gimlin film.
Oh yeah, that, and also older UFO blurry, like Sasquatch films and stuff like that. You have these now. I'm not saying bug the forest, people. That's the last thing I would say. But in cases of aliens or spook lights or ghosts, you want to see if you can catch these things. I would highly recommend doing the due diligence of investigating some of the history behind these instances, or even Earth events in an area like geological as well. You don't know what ancient culture was there prior, like native histories, tribal histories. Look into all these. You'll more than likely find the truth behind some of these. Some things were not written in history. Some things were lost to history. And you're seeing some of those fragments from missing history as well. So I would look for gaps in history, look for unexplainable, like gaps in history. You more than find where some of these things came from as well. So yeah, I highly recommend doing the due diligence. Now, when it comes to the ghost box, be very careful if you're into this, because go at about maybe 3 or 5 minutes per session. Don't do it in your home. Go somewhere else that is haunted. Try that out. You might get aliens, you might get military, you might get AI, you might get also the ghost. You'll get any beings that are following you around. Well, we've had that before as well. Mixed bag, but you will get something with that.
Yeah, interesting. I'm trying to think. There was this one video I seen in Fact or Fake, that paranormal show on Discovery Channel. It was about a road phantom of where, I think it was a police officer chasing this car, and then this car like goes through a fence and it's on the other side of the fence. Like, no, there, how did it happen with no fence damage or whatnot? And I can't remember what happened to that, but I don't know. I know that there's been some interesting stuff caught on different shows that I've seen of road phantoms. Something something running across the road, and the phantom vanishes, when the car gets up to it or whatnot. There's been some pretty legitimate ones, but then some obviously fake ones, that you can just tell
there's a lot of disinformation mixed in like that. Sometimes with the alien stuff, the government will mix in and dis and misinformation, and there's some people that are confused. But with a ghost car, sometimes that's holographic AI junk to cause accidents. One of the most common road phantoms out there that of people that have the sight will relate to this, where I would always see a partially visible person try to run and jump in front of my vehicle when I was still driving. One of the reasons I don't drive anymore, folks, is because this crap happens. Or else I'll see a ghost vehicle try to come up from my left or right or something. This is what happened when I lived in Tempe years ago. When I was not only would I see almost like a person jump in front to where you would feel the like you drove over somebody, or like a transparent vehicle would come up to you and it was really like a phantom from somebody else that had driven past there that was maybe heavier in energy, and you were just seeing another point in time. Or it was we call the binary network that was causing some of this alien built and government built mind control junk as well. but with phantom cars and phantom people. The most famous one that they even caught this on one of those shows one time, Paranormal Caught on Tape, I believe. And
Hmm.
what
Maybe
was
that's the show I was thinking of. Paranormal Caught on Tape.
Oh yeah, this
Yeah.
one was where this guy was driving through a parking lot and he sees this transparent person jumps in front. That is binary network. That is the mind control AI 5G junk that is out there right now, trying to cause accidents. Even though there's paranormal and mystical activity in this, when I would drive, I would either see somebody sitting in my back seat going "Ugh," in the mirror, or I would be driving and somebody would dive in front. I even had dreams about it too. What happened was Joanna got kind of miffed at me because that she saw I wasn't driving places after a while, and she got miffed, thought I wasn't picking up part of the slack of doing stuff during the day and all this other stuff. She was really pissed at me, but I was like, no, I wish you would experience this so that you would know what I'm talking about. What happened was she put it out there. She goes, I want to see what he's seeing. Well, what happened was she was going on a bridge going, this was in, I believe, Virginia. And she got miffed at me before this, but she was full believer after this, where she was just getting on this bridge. It was in Virginia going into, I believe it was Newport News. And also she was doing something in Virginia that day. And she saw this person on the other side here of just starting out on her right side, and transparent person, fully visible, but maybe 60% visible or 70% visible, ran in front of the car and then fell forward and disappeared. And she felt a like she ran over somebody, and like boom, like a bump, like a speed bump, or like you just hit a pedestrian. And what happened was she's like, oh my God, that's what he's seeing, you know. And from that point on, she didn't heckle me about that anymore. After she experienced that, nobody else behind her saw it. They were going trying to get her to move, and they didn't see it. It was meant for her to see, so she was convinced of what I was looking at. And so when I was driving around in Tempe, I got into a couple car accidents over this crap too. People swerve, and you also see this on a tape as well. There was an accident they used in court one time in somebody's accident case where they claimed I was swerving to avoid a person, and then on the camera nothing's there because the bad guys wanted to set somebody up. One more thing that have to do with this concept, and this is probably the creepiest of the entire bunch, appropriate to Halloween, and this is something I saw with my physical eyes. Me and Joanna were driving. It was still here in Prescott Valley, but it was more of a side street. And it still had heavy traffic, but it wasn't on the main drag. It's kind of like in Lincoln where you have O Street, and then you have like N and all those off to the sides a little bit. It was kind of like that, but where we were on one of the side ones. And we saw the cars, people were acting really weird. Like some people were going through red lights and people were almost swerving.
Driving 20 feet over their head.
Huh?
Driving 20 feet over their head.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was weird. People were swerving. People were almost hitting each other. And then I looked to my right on the sidewalk, and over to my right on the sidewalk there was this blue figure standing there in a blue hood, and it was a man, but I could see his chin. He had a goatee like mine. But his eyes were covered, kind of like the Emperor in Star Wars, where you saw the hood kind of go down over the eyes a little bit. I looked over at this guy, and he was pointing at traffic, just pointing. And then I quickly realized this was an entity, not a man. And I could see him fully physically there, no see-through or anything like that. And I looked over at him, and in my mind, I reached out and chopped his head off. And as soon as I did that, like what I do with demonic entities, I just visualized a sword and went and cut his head off. He vanished immediately and just went poof. And when I did that, the traffic all went back to normal and everybody was fine. And so that was the creepiest road phantom incident that we had here in Arizona. He was physically there, and if I could describe the robe, it was like blue, kind of like you'd expect a wizard's robe, but it's like it was like silky, like off blue. It wasn't quite like like vibrant blue. It was like this dingy blue, shiny, dingy blue, and
kind of
it was
interesting.
creepy.
Kind of interesting. You and I both kind of had a road phantom sort of event with this episode, being a road phantom episode.
Yeah, and I'd forgotten. I'd almost forgotten to talk about that one. But that's the creepiest thing we've encountered in this area was that. That was more alien, I believe, but it was still interdimensional. But it's kind of mixed with road phantom, alien, dimensional. It's kind of all rolled into one. But
Well, why don't I share a couple more locations for those haunted roads? Then you want to bring Isaac in for a few questions?
yeah, we can do that. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Let me go back to here. Go up here. Booyah. So we talked about the one in Illinois. I just want to talk about a couple more to give some people across the states a little bit of a in-depth view. So this one comes from Haynesville, Maine, Route 2A. In 1967, there were apparently two young girls about 10 years old who were struck by a vehicle and passed away along Route 2A. The story claims that one of the young girls hasn't crossed over to the other side and still roams the road. Over the decades and even in recent years, multiple drivers have mentioned seeing a young girl wandering around the side of the road at night. Some drivers have even reported pulling over and trying to assist the girl by offering her a ride. A few claims say the girl got into their vehicles, but shortly after driving away, she disappeared right there beside the driver in the passenger seat with a car moving. That one's about as creepy as could be. And then we'll jump over to, how about Pennsylvania? A lot of them are on the East Coast down here, surprisingly. Let's go down to Tampa.
A lot of East Coast phantoms out there. Yeah, most definitely.
Oh, goodness gracious. Let's go to Tampa for the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. This 5-point-mile bridge connects the city of St. Petersburg to Manatee County and acts as a line that separates Tampa Bay and the Gulf of Mexico. Whoa, baby. The current standing bridge is not the one that was there 40 years ago. The previous Sunshine Skyway Bridge was struck by a cargo ship in 1980 during a thunderstorm. The impact caused a section of the bridge to collapse into the water below, taking with it a Greyhound bus and several cars. 35 people passed away as a result of the incident. Holy Toledo. That's nuts. Sightings of ghosts wandering the old sections of the bridge now used as fishing piers have been reported, with some people even claiming that they hear what sounds like a bus coming toward them, followed by just a gust of wind and a smell of gasoline. A recurring story talks about late night motorists who have spotted what appears to be a woman standing alone on the bridge around midnight. Some motorists have claimed to have even picked her up to give her a ride and expressed that she became extremely nervous in the car, wanting to get to the end of the bridge. All claims said she vanished from the vehicles before the motorists could reach the other side of the bridge. Creepy. So yeah, there's some other road phantom kind of sightings throughout the United States that if you're
we drove past that too when we were there.
Did you?
Yeah, we drove past that by Tampa, and I was wondering what this was, and it felt creepy to me. Now that was a synchronicity because you just mentioned it. So very cool, very cool. That's a residual hearing the engines and the horns and all this other stuff. That's residual from when the incident happened because it was so impactful, and so anything that's very tragic like that holds a big imprint. So that's like battles, things of that nature, that some demonic entities harvest off of. But in this case, that's an imprint that people are feeling for the most part. They're hearing moments in time that were very, very, very prevalent, and the collapse was a lot of death there. So they're feeling that. Yeah. Now I know what I was feeling too when we passed it. So
I couldn't imagine being on the bridge and that happening. Ugh.
That's like the Point Pleasant one with the Mothman, in West Virginia. Yeah, it's very reminiscent of that one. Very, very similar. People are interested in the Mothman story. I highly recommend looking into that too. If you're, the movie went off on a tangent. I would recommend looking into the real case. There's alien and dimensional stuff mentioned in that. I'm not going to go completely into it, but that's recommended. Yeah.
Well, would you like to bring Isaac in for some questions?
Yes, he's been chomping at the bit here. Also, I want to say there's some elementals here before we go into the channeling as well. And there's one I work with by the name of Ben Ortfoil. That's his name. He has a longer name, but that's his short name. He's an elemental that deals with the changing of the seasons. Like he basically deals with decay portion of it to make sure that the balance of nature of the seasons takes place. And very similar to the game of Kingdoms of Amalur, if anybody's played that, where you see the Fae in it going with the changing of the seasons from summer to fall to winter and then back into spring. So he does something very similar to keep the balance. And he always would tell us like poisons and stuff like that, like things like weed killer, stuff like that would interfere with natural decay of nature. And that's what he would say. He was here in the beginning when we were talking about the changing of the seasons. He's not, I don't know, I asked him if he wanted to speak today, but he's like, he just wanted to make sure that people understand the balance of nature and why one season has to pass into the other, where it constantly, it's a change, it's a completion of a cycle in the beginning of a new one. That's what he wanted to say there. He when he channels through me, he tends to stick to the back of my head because he's very small. He's about this big. And
tiny.
He literally can hold like an action figure to the back of my head while he's talking. It's kind of weird because it feels like you feel like almost like a spider hanging off the back of your head or something. But it's like, but he looks about the size of a leaf, and if you saw him, he would look like a dead leaf blowing around. And he disguises himself as dead. Him and his people disguise themselves as dead leaves, and it's a perfect disguise. I know you're not the one talking today, Ben Ortwell. It's Isaac, but yeah, thank you for coming through and acknowledging that. He's really cool. You've probably seen his people before and not realized. So
probably.
We did an episode, basically putting a finger up to the wind. It was called, if people want the lifting episode, if people want to see, where Ben Ortwell was talking about elementals and such like that, like himself. So Isaac, did you want to come in? Okay, man, the energy is quite high at the moment today. It's up there.
Up.
Yeah, I've revved up. It's like fired up here. So I'm getting goosebumps all over. So yeah, it's a very good high energy. So a chill. If you get the chill and the goosebumps, that's actually a good thing. So it's when you burn up is when you're being burned out by the different energies. So good distinction there. So Isaac, did you want to come in? Yes, I know. If I shut up, you can come in. Yes. He heckles me constantly, so we call him the court jester of the galactic world, or Carrot Top, whichever you prefer. His hair is quite red. So somebody called him Bozo the Clown. We were just mentioning clowns. So man, there's a lot of elementals here today and fairies and everything. Wow. Okay. All right. Let's see. Isaac. Ooh. Through the crystal, if you would, please. Yes, you understand. Yes. Yes, this is Isaac. Yes, happy to be on this program yet again. The phenomenon you call road phantoms and also the creatures of the night are actually some that people will see more and more, given the approaching of the veil. The veil's most thin, as what you would say. And he is correct. Halloween was the only holiday where the cross quarters were not screwed up by the church, ironically enough. It was not all completely offset like Christmas or like the spring equinoxes and the like. And also your fall equinox was slightly offset, but Halloween and the Samhain, you say, or the Samhain or Samhain time frame is something that was kept relatively intact with maybe only a slight variance. Some people would find that strange or hard to believe, but the Earth and benevolent Earth Mother, you call her, and nature wanted to keep that one relatively intact. The road phantom observation, be it alien, be it elemental, or be it ghost, will pick up pace in the years to come. You will start to see either some of the injustices in the ghost world, such as what happened in 2020 and the like, or road phantoms where people were hit by cars and the like. Even your Resurrection Mary, people will start to see more and more of that until that situation reaches its point of resolution. These situations are wanting resolution and transformation, like dear Ben Ortwell said in the changing of the seasons. You must have a changing of the seasons or a resolution to an energetic instance, be it karmic, be it changing of the cycle, be it ghostly, be it alien, anything. History is coming back alive again for that reason alone, as well, for that particular reason, where certain things were injustices and hidden histories in the past. Even with your missing people, certain things will start coming to light. Your road phantoms, for instance, will be one of the first phenomena that will gain even more prominence than it has now. So I can go into questions if you like.
Yeah, excuse me. I need a drink.
Yes, when you are done choking. Yes.
Oh boy, howdy. Maybe I'm choking on a piece of candy corn. No. Yes. Could you please answer? We're talking about road phantoms earlier. How can you spot the difference between a road phantom that might be spiritual, road phantom that might be AI, and a road phantom that might be alien in nature?
This is interesting. The AI ones tend to have this almost staticky like appearance or jittery type of appearance. The alien ones generally are orbs that will send projections downward, very much like a projector, you see, or something of the like. This is what happened to your Emperor Constantine back in the times of the Roman Empire. When he saw the cross in the sky, it was one of these alien orb ships that were projecting the cross. Think of the downward version of that, where it would send almost like a beam of light down. There are elemental forms that are similar. Those tend to just kind of flutter around in the forest areas. Forest people use this a lot as well. The ghostly ones can be transparent or solid. Sometimes they are echoes of the past, like you said. Sometimes they are stuck ghosts that repeat the same repetitious pattern. Or in this instance, they will have a certain spiritual quality or situational quality to them. They might have a seasonal significance, or the person is pretty much stuck in a pattern and they need to get out of that particular routine, such as your resurrection, Mary. But in that instance, those ghosts will sometimes be solid, very much like in your Pele mythology, where they see Pele walking along the side of the road and she wants to be picked up. She's checking to see if people still have their compassionate side intact and have not lost this. She does not like those that have lost the ability to care for one another. In instances such as this, sometimes those are elementals, but that is a difference. AI is jittery. The other is more of a repetitious type. An alien also is more like a beaming type of effect, or some kind of really hollow type of light show effect. Like very much like your Mount Shasta, where it attracts light, where it has a light show that attracts. There is alien tech involved in this. The ghosts are the ones that people should really be focusing on to help that energy along. Like I said, it's being uncovered for a reason. But if you happen to catch the aliens at work or the artificial intelligence at work, by all means, oust them as well.
Very interesting. I always wondered, because it'd probably be hard to spot the difference between the different things that are causing things to happen.
Oh yes, if you feel that there's certain energetic differences, the AI will feel more hollow. The aliens one will be slightly more hollow, but you will feel a physical presence there. That's another way to detect. The ghostly one will always have some emotional upheaval or some kind of energetic emotion that is attached to the place as well. That is also the major difference.
Very interesting. What are the top 3 ways you believe that a person can protect their homes protect their homes when the veil is at its thinnest?
Interestingly enough, you've mentioned salt being one. Different colors preferably mixed together, but you can have the black witch's salt to the white, to the red, to all in between. Mixing them these together works. He discovered the sand, of course. Silver is another one. Shungite, he's also discovered this. Amber, frankincense, and myrrh is another one. But if I had to say the top protective technique that he's said, other than his Shungite devices, which are above board, the original traditional type would be salt and silver. Those would be the
Hmm.
top uncorruptible elements of all time, aside from him making his alchemical mixtures.
Very interesting. I what is some plant medicine around this time of year, like harvest wise? What's harvested during the fall that you believe could be used medicinally, would have the most medicinal benefit towards human beings?
Some of your sages and lavenders would be good. They're good clearers, but they're also good medicinals, as well as a lot of your flowers. If you're wanting to get into more of the ingesting of it, I would have to again say lavender. You have some of them on your property. You have your hibiscus flower. You have also the stevie plant, things of that nature that are actually worth looking into. Your spicy plants, such as like say your jalapenos, habaneros, they get energy flowing quite well. Not only do they help keep away pesky insects you don't want around your house, or snakes and the like he's found out here. Some of those spicier foods help with digestion. They help with also your brain functions as well. So you're already into a lot of these particular alchemies yourself. He himself has to get into more of them, but also anything that gets the brain synapses fired up and you're balancing your energies, such also your lavender, sages, but also your spicier plants, like what you're looking into, things of that nature.
Oh, interesting. Well, thank you. Appreciate you for popping through.
Yes, thank you very much. And remember, folks, this Halloween, do as you always do, but also the no-nos of Halloween. As you've said in the past, Aubrey, do not give out little Bibles. That's a no-no. So I personally found that quite hilarious when you said this. So with that said, also remember, don't be a nut job. Do not go out on the roads at night and harassing those along the roadway, especially if you're not a road phantom. But do not be creepy, folks, except in the positive sense. Do not also crack your nuts on the side of the roadway. So you would call that busting a nut. Haha. So had to add that creepiness in there, folks. Let that seep in. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Of course, he would have a sexual joke. All right, but he was itching to do that. He does that. He does that to get me used to talking like that. So it's like he does that constantly to make people uncomfortable. So they get used to that. So that's usually one of his jobs out there, is to say things repeatedly to make kind of turn people off a little bit, so they get desensitized to it. You know, I find it hilarious. I find his antics hilarious, but it's like, but yeah, that's what he wanted to clarify. But he's right. You know, salt and silver, I use it quite a bit around here all the time, and I use different colors of it. Different colors can repel different things. They've even tried to say salt was a silly superstition. It's not. You know, it is very, very effective. Aside from our devices, our shungite devices and orgone pieces, what he was saying, the traditional routes would be salt and silver. And I even have this old silver coin. We put this in our water when we mixed it in our tea. We put it in a glass jar with a crystal and some shungite nuggets. And you wouldn't believe how well that actually works, not only for digestion, but also energetic protection as well. Just taking a silver coin, this started to merge with the shungite. The shungite and silver will merge. I carry this one all over places because it's become almost like a talisman, having that all mixed in there like that. So this is actually I'm glad that was actually brought up. This has actually been fantastic. I've enjoyed this show immensely. So I don't know if you have anything to add, Aubrey, until we take this out.
No, I think I've summed up pretty well. I hope you all have a good Halloween. I hope you get a lot of treats, and hope you all are very festive in your own little way. You know, make the most of it. Make the most of the time when the veils are thinnest. If you are into the weird and strange, and if you're into trying to communicate with the other side, now is the perfect time. But enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, and enjoy all the special little treats. And until next time, we will see you later.
And you are now exiting the conspiracy sector. Bye-bye, everybody.
Adios.
Run, run.